1 2 1 2. Can anybody hear me? If you're in chat, say something so that I know you're here. Okay, awesome. I'm having a bit of trouble with the OBS software, so let me know if things disconnect and whatnot. But yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to the stream. That will basically be going through a few things coming into the updates. The amount of content showing up is going to be huge, so do not expect to see every single recipe that is going to show up in the pack. But the idea here is to give a bit of a preview, possibly build up some hype, show a few sneak peeks of things, and kind of talk a little bit about the direction where things are moving. Currently, we are in my test word. This is a word that I've been using basically for the last few years to do development for the pack. As you can see, it's very chaotic, but that's just kind of how things go with regards to something like this. So we are going to start from probably the thing that most people would be more interested in, which is new multi-blocks, baby. So we have a few boring ones to start, and then I'll get into the more juicy stuff. So in general, just giving a bit of context, as the people here will probably know, the update in terms of content, the pack in general has been on a okay level of polish, I would say, and balance from all content in between chapter 1 and chapter 10. What is not balanced are, I would say, some of the alternative endings, and most importantly, TARDIS. So just keep that in mind. The vast majority of the work done for this update is with regards to TARDIS. And for those who may not know, where right now in chat, TARDIS is the TARDIS coral is one of the final crafting items in the pack, and it's just sort of meant to be this extremely complex recipe that will take lots and lots and lots of work to do. The reality of it is, with the current balance of the pack, meaning balances of 0.18.3, this bad boy is near impossible to make. The most progressed player with a very, very optimized base estimated that it would take him about 2,400 hours of AFK. So the goal here is to just add a lot of quality of life tools to make the end game, well, the post game in this case, to craft this recipe something a little less absolutely insane and very boring. So there's going to be new features that improve processing, some that build on existing processing to make things a bit more fun and more stuff like that. Okay. Shirori, which I think is Rune's account, is down to only 1,300 hours. Lol. Okay. Basically too easy. I guess this update is not needed. Goodbye, everyone. I'm joking, of course, but yeah, let's get into the changes. First, on a few boring things. There's been a bit of a rework to the Mythic Processor Compactor. This is basically the Mythic Processor fast machine equivalent for plate making recipes. Now it has a few new recipes that take up the role of the squeezer, essentially. So for many things like the fruit juices and a few other things, you can make this using the MIDI processor compactor, and the structure for it has been changed accordingly to where for output you can have either an item if you want to make plates or fluids if you want to make those fluids. Now, why is making a few new liquids much faster needed? Because I basically went through and tried to overhaul, as of this update, basically all single block machines into Mythic or recursive processor versions to reduce a bit of the spam that is happening currently in postgame. One of these recursive processors is going to be the chemical reactor, which is called the chemical reactor, but it has a few other recipes as well. It will have all progression recipes for the chemical reactor itself, of course, then all the recipes for the neutron irradiator, and a few recipes from the salt mixer. So essentially anything that is fluid in, fluid out, I try to include into this machine. It has the regular recursive processor form factor with 2 inputs and 2 outputs. It cannot accept any hatches because I feel like it's more interesting like that, essentially. Kind of a design decision made here. Then we have a bit of a rework to the centrifuge recursive processor. This includes the ability to process fluids, but not in the way you may expect, because it works with A2 fluid droplets. I thought I was being nice and quirky working with this one. It's just that I realized that by basically multi-blockifying all the single blocks, I was running into a bit of an issue where things were getting very boring. I feel like to where the purpose of the multi-blocks was just to be a copy of a symbol block that you already have, and that I felt made things a bit uninteresting. So I tried to add a bit of quirkiness there with regards to how I implemented some recipes. You see, though, for example, the chemical reactor is just a fairly simple fluid in, fluid out without many quirks. And then we have another new recursive processor to replace lots of single blocks, and that's the transposer, which again, kind of like the chemical reactor, will have multiple recipes from multiple machines. So this will take up the fluid transposer role. It will take up the fluid enricher and the fluid infuser, I think it's called, right? The one from Meatballcraft. Yeah, the fluid infuser. And it's going to have a few unique recipes as well. So essentially, depending on how you set your hatches, it has a lot of wildcard slots. You can set it into a mode where it can have one item input and one fluid input to make one item output, or one item input to make item plus fluid, and a bunch of combinations in between. Essentially, for most of the recipes, they work the exact same way as they would in the regular single block, just of course with separated hatches. There is one exception, which is one of the things that needed the biggest buff for post-game, which is fractal stone duplication. For this one, in addition to the regular parallelization that the multi-block can do, which is with one upgrade for 8x. Additionally, you can use the Warren configurator in different modes to get different parallel tiers just for fractal stone alone. So this won't be for all recipes, where the goal here is that if you have the infrastructure to keep up, you can make up to 800,000 fractal stone per operation with the maximum amount of parallel and the maximum tier recipe. And of course, for all the fluids for fractal stone, I will probably get into this a bit later. They're also getting processing upgrades to go along with this. Now, let's get into a new multi-block that is not a mythic or recursive processor, which is going to be the seared caster. While it is not a mythic or recursive processor, it's still more or less a copy of an existing machine, which is the smart output. This guy is a bit slow and a bit laggy, so it also required a multi-blockification. And that's kind of what I went for. This is how it looks. It's teeny tiny and cute, and it's been mostly designed to be wall shared, so that you can, and you probably will, spam a bunch of these in your base. By default, you can see here the recipes are 20 ticks 1 second for one operation, so not the best. Without upgrades, it's slower than what a regular smart output can do, but unlike the smart output, has lots and lots of upgrades, which are applied by changing the fluid that's right there in the middle. And you can get upgrades all the way up to 80x parallelization. Again, with these multi-blocks, I try to add a few possibly interesting mechanics that may or may not turn into annoyances. That's for you players to tell me whenever you get your hands on it. But the idea here is that whenever you unlock parallels, it also increases the cost of the casts that you need to be using. So to get 80x parallel on the seared caster, you would also need 80 plates of a given type. And of course, it has all the different hatch options. This one does not have any particular quirks with regards to hatches. Now, of course, I did not add every single casting recipe. I basically focused on the ones that are actually used in progression. This includes the ones, let's say, for example, for complex gearbox, or some of those other items, the shards for black hole alloy, and things of this sort. And then, of course, similar to the transposer, there's going to be a few unique recipes that come into play for some progression steps, which you can sort of see some of these right here. And I'll be talking about this a bit more in detail later. So in terms of the quote-unquote regular multi-blocks, this is more or less it. There are a few big boys coming in, but before then I want to take a bit of a detour and bring up a new multi-block, which will also correspond to a new feature rework in the pack, which is in the way you would produce all of the stars corresponding to the mythic shells. So these will include Divine, Eden, Wildwood, Appalachia, or Appalachia, Skytern, and Mortum stars. They are not draconic fusion crafts anymore. They get their own multi-block, which is the Stellar Diviner. It's a fairly cheap multi that you unlock late chapter 3 early chapter 4, and it's going to be the new alternative for star automation. This is because people were running into issues with draconic fusion crafting time being essentially capped, even in the presence of tick acceleration, and that slowness basically encouraged very degenerate, very spammy gameplay solutions, and those were particularly bad for TPS. So instead I moved on to a multi-block solution, which is this guy here. It has tiered recipes that more or less correspond to the tiers with the Draconic Fusion Crafter. There have been a few rebalances here, but they're more or less the same, given a few numerical changes and a few output changes. So I'm getting a few questions. Where is the controller on this multi? I believe it's right here. Yeah. So it's going to be one of those covered ones at the bottom, sort of like the soul accumulator. And Lucas is asking, can you still make Divine Star in Fusion? You cannot. The tooltips will be changed accordingly. And actually, I should probably pin that to remind myself to remove it. But yeah, this is going to be the only way you make the stars, of course, with the exception of the Divine Star, which will be the same as current life patch, where you get the first few ones using the mythical resource miner, and then you move on to the Stellar Diviner, which will replace Draconic Fusion. Now, to run this multi-block uses Divination Catalyst, which is a fluid which is made from Divination Catalyst items. As you can see, there are multiple recipe tiers. These essentially use the various stones from the mythic shells to get better and better fluid production, depending on the mythic shell that you are currently in. And this is, and the actual Divination Catalyst itself is still a fusion crafting recipe with its own set of tiers. So the idea here is that I'm sort of offsetting the degenerate gameplay into a more integrated upgrade structure. So the idea here is that sort of naturally you will unlock upgrades to make this item fuel, and you would also unlock upgrades to get more fluid out of your item fuel, so that in the end you will be reducing the number of Draconic Fusion setups that you have without the need, hopefully, of any tick acceleration. And this is more or less it for Stellar Diviner, unless anybody has questions, and feel free to put them in the chat, so I can move on to another rework. I'm going to be hyping up the new multi-blocks for a little bit longer, which is the rework to the Draconic Evolution course. These had sort of the same issues as the stars, where the Draconic fusion was just not keeping up. So I have a few questions. Are those catalysts consumed? I assume you mean the divination catalysts. Yes, they are. So you will still need an automated infusion setup, but the recipes are balanced in such a way where you basically don't need to speed up your infusion setup as much. That's the general idea. And you're going to only have one infusion setup as opposed to 5. I hope that answers your question, Brumi. And then Noob is asking, is there anything new in chapters 3 and 4? This is literally a thing that I'm showing that is going to be coming late chapter 3, early chapter 4. And in terms of changes that affect the mid-game, so chapter 4 inwards, the core rework is one of those. So all of the Draconic Evolution cores have now some sort of crafting recipes. They too moved away uh, from Draconic Fusion, although in a similar vein as the uh, Mythic Shell Stars, Infusion would still be integrated into the crafting chain, just in a way where you don't need to spam it and tick accelerate it as much. Essentially, better rates and fewer setups. The way you do this is with a new crafting ingredient that would show up on Awakened Core tier and later, which is Awakened Mithril. So this has its own crafting chain where each step, similar to the Divination Catalyst, will have tons and tons of upgrades to compensate for the inherent slowness of Draconic Fusion, since the initial step is still a fusion crafting, where again here you start with just a 4x, and then you can upgrade all the way to doing full stacks per operation, which can be then processed in multiple tiered recipes in the Dragonfire Crucible to make larger and larger amounts from fewer inputs. So you start off with just doubling your output, then you can triple it, then you can quadruple it all the way to 16x your yield. Well, 10x your yield by chapter 8. And given this 10, there's going to be one more extra tier, so this is the one that's being used. So Awakened Mithril Alloy is the main ingredient for Awakened Core, which has tiers that again try to be in the same theme as the older fusion crafting recipes, just with a bit more thematic attention to making a cool crafting recipe, essentially. And then for chaotic cores, there's going to be one more tier of alloying, where again, using more and more chaos shards will yield better rates of your crafting ingredients, so that you can use them more and more liberally for your chaotic core recipes. Now, since I'm talking chaos shards, it feels like a good time to mention also that our boy, the chaotic condenser, got just a handful of new upgrade tiers and buffs to existing upgrade tiers, to where the chain, because I know these guys get spammed a lot even earlier in the pack, you will have a 15x upgrade, a 60x upgrade, a 240x upgrade, a 960x upgrade, and a 3840x upgrade. Where the idea here is that you can sort of keep the number of your chaotic condensers low, and it's more impactful to go for the upgrades which become available from late game into end game, with the first couple being well, actually these two are mid game, these two are late game, and this one is end game upgrade. And now with that said, I guess I can show the recipes for them. So this is the same. The Find Draconium block is sort of the starting point for the late game upgrades for the chaotic condenser, and then there's going to be a few more. So this is gated by infinity for 240x. With highlight, you can get 960x, and with infinite wishes, so this is through post game, you can do almost 4000x upgrade. to hopefully help with the insane amounts of chaos that you need for everything else in the pack. And now, speaking of endgame and postgame, let's get into some of the reworks. The first of which is Quendier plates. So it used to be a combination crafting recipes. Now it has its own multi-block and its own system of upgrades. This is the multi-block. I like geometry. Some of the research I do for my real life job has to do with this shape, which is it's called a circular hyperboloid, and I try to recreate it in Minecraft. And I should have a build version of it somewhere. I believe possibly down this way. Yeah, there it is. It's a big boy. It's still 15 by 15, so it fits into one chunk. And it has this, I think, pretty cool looking structure with inputs and outputs located both at the top and the bottom. It is a little bit quirky in the sense that it does a similar thing to the Dragon Slayer Forge, for those that have used it, where it requires using tiny item inputs for all the various inputs, but it can still allow for any size of item output, which is actually a change happening to the Dragon Slayer Forge as well, where the structure for it now will accept any size of output. This is to help with throughput issues that people were having, where having just a tiny item output was not enough to make automations work well. And so that's a similar principle. The multi-block itself doesn't have any particularly big quirks. The item inputs, as you can see, are the same as they were for the combination crafting recipes. The only difference is that it runs a little bit on these tangible ordo and tangible perditio ingredients, which are made in the Forge of the Wyverns from the crystals that you get from your void ore miners. It felt a bit weird that those were not being used for anything, and I know a lot of people even void them. So I tried to give them a bit of use without having a particularly high requirement in terms of item cost. I guess there is one addition to this, which is one final tier of Quendier plate recipe, which is created by a new tier of bright steel alloy plate, which is going to be part of some new post-game content that I will hopefully be discussing a bit later. But that's essentially the rework for Quendier. And okay, what's Shiraori says parentheses in the structure. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Okay. All right, maybe there is a bit of delay. And yeah, Shiraori, if you want to make a comment on that, feel free to say it in chat. In the meantime, I can move on. Oh, okay, try to clarify previous message, made it more confusing. Having the beacon as part of the structure is amazing design. Oh, okay, nice. Happy that you like it. I had an initial idea of making this multi-block a bit quirkier, and I may still do it, but at the moment it allows any airspace in between, so if you want to, you can recolor the center beacon. What I'm considering is to add a special function to the multi-block so that it automatically cycles the colors of the beacon. I should be able to do that. It may be a little laggy though, so I'm kind of weighing my options there. But yeah, this I think should be it for ligature of the triodes. We can move on to the presbytery of the threefold love, which is this bad boy over here. It's larger than one chunk. I have a version of it built, yeah, somewhere this way. While I get there, Minecraft in Chocolate says a bit behind on the stream, but thank you very much for the larger output on Dragon Slayer 4. Yeah, that one was very much needed, I think. And I know people would appreciate it. This is the new multi-block. It does look a little weird from some angles, but the goal here is that I wanted to have threefold knots that would be topologically accurate using Minecraft blocks. This is more or less the smallest size you can do while avoiding self-intersection of the structure. And this multi-block is going to be the new way you craft Trinity ingots, where, again, the recipe using the combination for crafter will be gone, and it will instead be replaced by this new multi-block. It has a few quirks, the first of which is, again, the fact that it uses single tiny item inputs, because I think it makes things a bit cooler thematically for having a magical altar where you place things around, as opposed to just having, you know, a big hatch where you dump everything and it requires very little setup. And this guy is especially quirky in the sense that in addition to the single item inputs, it runs on a catalyst which determines one of two upgrade chains of this multi-block, which determines amount of parallels. So if you run it on essence of the highlight warrior, it would process one hyperuran for one trinity, while if you use the upgraded version, so the balanced warrior and the Kanohi warrior, you'll 4x and 16x the capacity of processing hyperuranon while keeping the cost of everything else the same. Now, if you can see here, this catalyst has a deletion chance, but depending on the fluid inputs that you use, so divine resonance is always used, while the secondary fluid changes, and depending on the secondary fluid, you get better and better chances of this catalyst not being consumed. The fluid consumed here are mostly alloys from various parts of the pack, where essentially the more expensive the alloy, the lower the chance of the catalyst being deleted. So for example, if you're using a bright steel alloy, you have a 5% chance of consuming it, Well, if you move to Hassium alloy, the chance goes down to 1%, and with the maximum tier, with Neutrasium alloy, which is a new fluid, you'll get 0.1% deletion rate. Now, why would you want to reduce this cost? Well, the Highlight Warrior for Tier 1 is, all things considered, fairly cheap. And as a matter of fact, it has gotten a little bit easier to get, because now Highlight Fluid has a bit more processing upgrades. But where the benefit becomes more and more evident is if you need to do the parallelized recipes. Because these guys are more expensive. So for the balanced warrior essence, you'll be using a whole Quendier seal. And those are not necessarily cheap. And for the top tier, for the Kanohi warrior, you'll be using a bunch of protodermis, which I'll be getting into later, which is not a particularly cheap crafting ingredient. So the idea here is, if you want to get better yield on your Trinity ingots, which you probably want to given how many Trinity fragments are used in progression, you probably want to get your hands on better fluids and better catalysts for this multi-block. Now, before into getting other stuff, I'm going to answer a few questions. Noob says, a question about that Infinity Armor liquid, what's that? You'll see later. Mr. TV says hello. Hi, Mr. TV. And another question from Noob. Also, do you have an estimate date for when you will drop the updates? I don't know yet. I'll probably take I still need to do localization. That takes a while. And most importantly, I want to write a bunch of new lore for the quest book. So I don't know, maybe I'll take a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks to get that done, but I don't want to make any promises because things may change. Now, back on pack content, let's talk about protodermis, which is this bad boy fluid that may look a little bit imposing. I'll get into the recipe later, but it's crafted into yet another new multi-block, which is going to be part of a new post-game chain, which is the Vengeance Tesseract, which you can see here in the preview and over here as a built-inward multi-block. This is a little bit of an inside joke for one of the people from one of the teams that is doing one of the EMC-less challenge runs. They were grinding on a structure that they nicknamed Vengeance Tesseract, and I thought it was funny. So I introduced it into the pack as part of this post-game chain. This is sort of an equivalent to multi-blocks like the 12 Gates of Heaven and the Font of Divinity, where it has a heavy theme on a given magic block, in this case, a magic mod, sorry. In this case being Botania. It runs on a good amount of mana, although here the main automation challenge is transportation of the mana as opposed to making it, because of course you have creative mana pools. It eats through your runes, and it eats a good amount of Residian and Terrasteel, which of course will have by themselves some processing upgrades, which I'll probably get into a bit later. But the idea here is that you don't necessarily need to run this multi-block super often, assuming that you have a good a good fluid so that your essence of the Kanoi warrior doesn't get consumed as much. Now, Protodermis has lots of uses. It's not only used for Presbytery of the Threefold Glove. So the idea there is that the more you can optimize your Kanohi warrior consumption, the more this sort of expensive Protodermis can go into all your other automations. Shirori says, big fan of that recipes. Nice to see more runes being necessary. Yes. And as a matter of fact, I am going to get into a little bit of post-game content. I will try to keep it spoiler-free, but I will kind of walk you through a couple of the new pieces. As you can see here, the quest book in chapter 10 has been reworked a little bit. There's a few new things, new chains coming out of the sides. So the chain where you'll be unlocking Vengeance Tesseract is basically a continuation of the Natural Balance crafting chain for the Gem of the Birthing Nebula, which is used in a bunch of upgrades for processing in the post-game. Additionally, what this entire chain is getting is better improved rune recipes that you basically unlock as you go up this chain. So I can use, for example, Rune of Winter as an example. You start off with your regular 1x recipes. In mid-game, this is kind of a bit of a showcase on how the runes have been rebalanced to get better and better yields. By chapter 3, you can get a 2x. Chapter 4, you can get a 4x. If you do some side quests in chapter 4, you can get 6x, then 10, basically going up exponentially, where if you complete the pack for the canon ending, you can go all the way up to 128 runes per craft. But then there's a lot of post-game tiers that increase those rates even further. So for doing the Infinite Wishes stuff, you get 256. If you get started on Quasar Gang, you can do 512. And then for this new Botania-themed chain, as you basically complete quests to unlock this multi-block, you'll also unlock some dusts that constitute more upgrades. So you will have Galactic Dust for 1024. You will have Bifrost Dust for 2048. You can do Ragnarok Dust for 4096, and finally Valhalla Dust for 8192. But the idea here is you do need a crap ton of runes for both of these new Vengeance Tesseract chain and for the existing Birthing Nebula Dying Constellation crafting chain. So the idea here is that you won't need to spam rune altars as much. Hopefully, with the max tier recipe, you'll be able to get away with just one of each rune type without needing to speed things up too much, hopefully. Because I know runes, at least in a couple of post-game words, were a bit of an issue, you could say. Now, which new chain do we want to do? And yeah, for those that sort of care about the lore, the theming here for this new chain, you have sort of seen it already. It's something that's Botania and Norse mythology themed, if you've noticed some of the names there. Okay, Minecraft in Chocolate asks, will these dusts require items in the gem line, like Gem of the Northern Nebula, no, they do not. I can show you. Okay. So yeah, galactic dust is just a fractalite furnace recipe gated by the second tier of Quasar Gang, and you get better and better processing the more of the Quasar Gang multi-block you have built. And then this will use a new recursion fragment for the next tier. That's just something you unlock as part of the chain as you go up those quests. On the right, I think it's at this point here that you can get the recursion fragment of Asgard, which makes the Bifrost War and Dust. Then you can do some Dragonfire Crucible with Needle Dragonfire, which is a new fluid unlocked as part of this chain. It's basically all stuff that is self-contained as part of that Arcana / Norse mythology / Botania chain quest line. And might as well show the final tier as well. So this is Ragnarok and this is Valhalla. There's just a reusable item that gets cycled through for part of this. The idea here is if you have the requirements, these tasks are very easy. Getting the requirements though may be hard. That's kind of the way I try to balance things out. So it's more of a check on how far you progressed as opposed to an infrastructure check, if you wish. Now, what do I want to do next? I think let's go here. So this part of the quest book got reworked a little bit. You still have the 3 endings from the Infinite Wishes multi-block, but now there's a new side chain that technically just requires doing Fuhai, doesn't build on Travixte, although eventually you'll need to do a bunch of other things, and this is for the Sundering of the Twilight Curse puzzle. Of course, I'm not going to go through what the puzzle is, but the idea here is that you want to go through the Twilight Forest and right-click a bunch of different mobs using this Crimson Sundering Pebble, and depending on the mobs that you click, you spawn new traders that will give you these resources. I'm not going to spoiler what part of the puzzle, but one part of this puzzle will require alchemical ore line. So you will need to do the crafting chain for dodecapole compressed alchemical fractal to be able to unlock this. And in terms of theming, this chain goes a little bit into some Thaumcraft stuff, into some Twilight Forest stuff, and I guess this may be a little bit of a spoiler. If you read the tooltip here, you'll finally be able to open up the portal in the Crepuscular Coldstone. This took a while in terms of lore stuff to get there, but I think it would make for some pretty cool content. And of course, one side of it is the RPG stuff you do, the other side is all the upgrades that you get. The main one being this Hopebringer crystal that you get out of completing this chain, which will give upgrades for making Warren plates. So Warren plate is getting more or less the same treatment as all the other Chaotic Striker recipes, where there are 4 different tiers that depend on the hammer and the crafting ingredient. Same here. You can get more Warren plates per self-actualizing Warren Rift. These are very, very expensive, so you won't need to run them at as fast of a speed to make Warren plates, which can then be used for lots and lots of ascender fluids and hungering flesh. So that's one of the upgrades you get from this chain. The other one, which may be more interesting for the TARDISers, maybe, is this Hopebringer metal, which lets you craft these bionic constructs. Now, the bionic construct itself is a bit more gated. You need to complete this chain, and part of the new post-brainline stuff as well. So it's a bit of a more involved process. But if you have Hopebringer metal, you can make bionic constructs, which will give first a better hyperuranon recipe, which I know a lot of people would be excited about. And you can see only one recursion of natural law now, not two. And let me see. For Hopebringer metal, you where is it? Action. Okay, I am blanking on the name of an item. I am checking on it. Yes, you'll also be able to get these using the Hopebringer metal. So completing this new chain, you'll be able to craft the Act of Restored Balance, which has a couple of recipe tiers depending on progression in other things, which can replace the top item for Cosmic Balance. The main benefit here is, so if you're making the offer of Restored Balance, that's all you need if you need to get the canon ending. But this guy's expensive. It runs on hungering machine cases, 4 per, and that's a lot. Instead, with this Act of Restored Balance, it will only run on well-defined machine cases, even getting a 50% discount if you have done Everblue chain. Where the idea here is, of course, for those that are playing the post game, hungering machine cases are half of the ingredients for balanced machine casing, which is very, very, very expensive. So now, more or less, all of your hungering machine cases can go directly into making balanced machine casing, as opposed to being eaten by your cosmic balance. So it won't look like a numerical buff if you're trying to speed up your balanced machine casing, but it will essentially act as a buff because now all of your hungering machine cases are going into the same place, as opposed to being split into a bunch of different lines. And of course, if you're doing TARDIS, you need tens of thousands of these guys and tens of thousands of these guys, so things build up. And then another cool thing that I think will be enjoyed is this little addition to the post-brainline ending content, which is the key of actualization, which is a new Coldstone sort of boss fight. Again, I'm not going to spoil exactly what it goes into, but part of the part of the fight consists into doing a crafting recipe. In this case, iridescent altar recipe with a bunch of new ingredients that are part of the fight, and you can get Flame of Actualization out of it, which is going to be part of a few upgraded Dragonfire Crucible recipes. So a lot of stuff. It's essentially a catalyst that you add to the Dragonfire Crucible to unlock a few new recipes. Probably, so you'll be able to get better Stones of Universal Balance. You'll be able to get better Dust of Infinite Wishes, up to 48 for these recipes. You were able only to do 8 in the previous version with the base tier. And the final big one is this Roaring Warren alloy, which comes with its own automation. I tried to also do for basically all of these new recipes. They come along a lot of bottleneck busting, where essentially I just try to go down the chains for each of these ingredients, even the existing ones, to ensure that you can make them at speed. Now, why would you want to make this Roaring Warren alloy? Is to make a ton and a ton of Ascended Fluix and Hungering Flesh, which you will need for a few funny shenanigans. Because TARDIS, while having gotten a bit easier with these upgrades, has also gotten a bit harder in terms of some ingredients, which I'll be showing later, because I want to do one thing first, and is talk a little bit about this new chain, which will become available after doing a bit of Quasar Gang. This is themed around the Erebus dimension, and it's going to be full of Hollow Knight Easter eggs. For those that enjoy those, you will need to delve into the void and do a bunch of cool stuff. And again, kind of like all the other RPG chains that I've shown here, completing it gives you better better processing or better production on some resources. This is where a certain recipes that I showed as a sneak peek will show up. You essentially consume a bunch of nothing and an infinity armor set. This does get consumed to make Void Giver Focus, which is part of a chain upgrade to make better Hungering Word Souls. So I would say this is most likely going to be the main incentive for doing this, although it's not the only incentive. There's a few other upgrades that doing this Erebus themed chain will give you. So thematically, that's more or less it in terms of the new chapter 10 stuff. I'm just going to give a quick showcase to how TARDIS is going to change. If you recall here, these 8 ingredients are different in the live patch. 4 of these are just compressed alchemical fractals. At this point, you have to do alchemical ore line to craft TARDIS. For those that don't know, alchemical ore line is EMC-less challenge crafting chain. So unless like if you're just playing the pack normally, you won't really encounter this crafting chain. That's only for EMC-less challenge. Now though, if you want to make TARDIS, you'll also need to set this up. It's not a particularly, well, it's a very big crafting chain, but it also produces a lot of material. So most likely it won't be a bottleneck here. Let's see. Minecraft in Chocolate asks, speaking of Hungering Word Souls, does Abyss of Flesh get an upgrade of any kind? Yes, it does. Let me pull that up. Where's Hungering Word Soul here? So most of the ingredients actually do get upgrades. Abyss of Flesh gets a few. So if you've done Gallifrey, you can get an 8x. Just by doing Gallifrey and adding one crafting step, you can get all the way to 12. And then if you've done Travixte post-game, you'll be able to get the 20x recipe upgrade. I tried again. I probably missed something somewhere, but for everything that I'm showing, essentially, I just went in on every single ingredient and trying to implement some sort of buff. These are hundreds, if not thousands, of recipes, so I'm not going to show them all. But please, if you have questions about specific ones, feel free to put them in the chat, and I can show if I address them or not. Now back to TARDIS. So yeah, alchemical ore line for doing these ingredients, and here there's a new middle ingredient, the Hopebringer Fabrial, for the other new stuff. This may look intimidating, but all things considered, it's not particularly expensive. The main reason for this existing is to force you to complete basically all of the new side content, so that you inevitably unlock all of the new upgraded chains. This is sort of, it kind of plays the role as recursion prison key in chapter 8, where you have a big recipe with lots of ingredients that are there mostly to ensure that you've done the side quests that are good to do at a given point. So Shiraori asks, is the Oath of the Lord of Gluttony automatable now? I don't think you currently can because it requires a Meatballcraft. Yes, it can. Let me pull that up. So it gets a recursive. You basically use Harbinger Sentient Flesh to duplicate it, and this is not only going to be used for this upgraded chain. It has a few more things where basically respect of that becomes a crafting ingredient in a new chain that I'm actually. This is a good segue where I can get into this new chain, which, unlike what I've shown before, is not for your sake of making more resources, is for my sake of making you produce more resources, and it just eats through them. So this is for TARDIS stem and all the tiers above. They also get a revamped recipe. And I'm going to drink a little bit. Okay. So TARDIS stem now is going to use this rare metal relativistic condensate. This one is not as big a deal. It's just a bunch of singularities. That's just because I added new where is it? New processing for a few new Warren extractors that make lots of resources. So that's mostly for funny memes and a couple of recipe upgrades. The big resource sink that you'll probably feel as possibly a bit of a wall for post-game is this Catalyst of Universal Balance. It is crafted using catalysts of natural law, which are currently a big expensive item already. It consumes a few new post-game materials as well, although most of these get their own recipe upgrades as well. And it comes with a bit of a hefty price in terms of Hungering Flesh, Ordering Ascension, which is just the molten version of Ascended Fluix, Infinite Insane Wish, and Infinite Divine Wish. So for these two, I sort of showed it. That's basically where Roaring Warren Alloy comes into play. You want to automate this guy to make lots of Ascended Fluix, so that you can plop it into your Forge of the Wyverns to make lots of Ordering Ascension to be plopped into your universal balance. And then for excuse me, and then for int of insanity and int of divinity, there are going to be new upgraded chains to make more and more of it. So at the moment, if you're looking at the live patch of the pack, you have access to this tier that makes 4,000. That's the one you get in chapter 4, I believe. And then in chapter 10, you get this recipe. In the current live patch, it does not have a fluid input. I just added this to avoid recipe conflicts. It's just to consume a little bit of liquid death. But then, if you want to get the progressively better upgrades, which get pretty insane, you want to go through a fluid crafting chain that uses the phasing steel pot for some of its crafting steps, essentially. And just since I showed insanity, I'll show divinity as well. It receives a similar treatment, but here the upgraded chain is revolving around the divine stone, where you craft it into stone of the divine love, which you craft into the stone of natural might, which you craft into the stone of infinite creativity, which you craft in endowed free will, etc., etc., boundless curiosity, and you get better and better production rates for your hint of divinity, so that you can absolutely demolish it. Where is it? In oh, it's here. You can absolutely demolish it in your Catalyst of Universal Balance. Okay, so now I'm reading a few comments. Oh, I'm curious about the upgrades to Heatproof Brick or Infinity Furnace Brick more generally. Okay, yes, those did get upgrades. They are not numerical upgrades, they are speed upgrades. So the Infinity Brick recipe itself has not been changed, but Heatproof Brick now gets its own mythic processor, and Coke Bricks get a few different tiers of recipes, so that you won't have to spam crafters as much. Okay. Now, I have a... The new Meister asks, did the Aesir multi get the same hatch change as the Dragon Slayer multi? No. So for that one, I think it's going to remain as is until the new update for modular machinery add-on comes out, and I'll be using the new single item hatch. The decision here is mostly thematic. For IC Resonator, I like to keep it so that you need to use both item outputs. So I know those are sort of a bottleneck at the moment in update. I know if you're on the latest version of modular machinery, if there is an item in outputs, it won't do repeated searches. So it's still going to be a bit faster. Most likely you will still have the bottleneck of item extraction speed. That's a bit unfortunate, but for the time being, since a solution is already in the works for this, I'm going to wait until things get done on the mod side of things, as opposed to just turning this into a more boring multi-block. Okay, so, and speaking of Minecraft in Chocolate asks, will singularity item matches be applied broadly to multi-blocks? Probably. So what I will most likely do, and it's a guess, I want to kind of see them implemented, so I may change my mind. But basically for every multi-block where it can accept both ME and regular hatches, I would just add singularity hatches to that. But for multi-blocks that have specific requirements such as the AC resonator, it would change on a machine-to-machine basis, essentially. But let's say if you are using a Mythic processor, most likely those will gain singularity output capability by default. Okay. Going to take a drink. All right, and if there are no more questions, I'm going to give it a couple of minutes, but there is probably one processing chain upgrade that I sort of want to go through because I know it's where the vast majority of bottlenecks are encountered, at least that I know of course. As things change, new things evolve. Oh, actually, before then, I forgot to mention there are a few new Warren extractors. So there's going to be, let me see, where are they? There's going to be one for self-actualizing stone, which I know was very much awaited. This is gated by doing the excavation lattice. So it's probably one of the first Kashan side quests that you'll be doing, so that you can get tons and tons of self-actualizing stone, since I know a lot of people were complaining that it was way too slow to make in other ways. Then there is going to be, and I showed it earlier, one for all the Tech Reborn ores, which are also getting upgraded. Where is it? Yeah, here, upgraded processing chains using inquiring matter to get lots of parallelization for processing, which you can plop in a blaster to get lots of these materials, since they're first very much needed in large amounts for post-game, and I did a few singularity shenanigans using them as well. So, okay, Cryonic is asking what the upgrade to plutonium looks like. That's a great segue because it's the next Warren extractor, but it's not just a Warren extractor. Where is it? Radioactive. So in general, so if you're a post-game player, so I'm starting from the later part of the pack and then I'm going to be moving to earlier chapters. This is how you'll be making all the radioactive ores with a Warren extractor, and these get their upgraded chains in the grinder using the post-game, well, end-game fluids to get lots of plutonium. If you're earlier on in progression, there is a new recipe where the honey clusters from uranium and thorium B can also be made using some seared gravestone into ores, which can then be plopped into ore processing, which, depending on the chapter you're in, will have better and better plutonium yield, essentially. Shirori asks, any changes to the hypercubic energy orb line? I know there was stuff with some stuff being unstackable causing problems there. Yes, that's a good one to point out. So, hypercubic orb, I'm forgetting what step, but I can point it once I see it. Yes, this step here. This guy here used to be Rod of the Bifrost. Now it's Fabulous Mana Pool, which itself comes with a bit of an upgraded chain to get Shimmer Rock using the Gaia Altar for extra parallelization and less sequential fabricator lag, which I know was a problem here. So now basically anything that you can make in crafting using the Rod of the Bifrost, you can make 64x with the Gaia altar. Then also Minecraft in Chocolate asks, also curious about the botanic Warren extractor. Okay, yes, this is a cool one. I'm going to start off with a different thing, which is living gold ore. So this guy is going to be dropped by the Warren extractor, but you can get your hands on it in early chapter 6 if you want, basically from the same excavator that gives you runic ore. You'll also be getting this guy. It has its own ore processing with a couple of upgradable things where you get better yield and better parallelization the more you're progressed. So that living gold can become a fully passivable endeavor. If you noticed, this does not include living rock and living wood. This is because they get a different treatment, which is, so at the moment you can get the Mortum Living Rock. For these rates, there's now the Warren Living Rock, which is an upgraded version either using actualizing stone or self-actualizing stone. And it gives an additional boost to your living rock and living wood production. So I'm showing the living rock version. There's a Warren living wood equivalent on the opposite side. Yeah, Warren living wood. RIP Master Spell Desiderium. Yeah, that one, so it's nice and quirky. I think it's a pretty funny crafting mechanic. It's also, though, not the most stable. And as far as I know, for some post-game things, it still could not keep up. So despite being very funny and kind of quirky, and I suspect people will still use it for some at some points in progression. Unfortunately, it probably won't be good to be kept for the very late progression stages. Like if you're just doing canon ending, you can get by without any of these. If you're doing Sword of the Cosmos, you can probably get by without any of these. If you're doing Quasar Gang, though, it's probably going to be more beneficial to use these upgrade chains, so to use the Living Gold ore instead. Okay, did I see 3 recursive singular condensate in the Dyson irradiator recipe? Recursive being used, or you mean the recipe to craft it? Oh yeah, these are getting more tiers, which is going to be quite nice. So if you're just a default Dyson irradiator progressor using dimensional ascension, you'll get more of these, basically 1 extra per tier. And just in case it wasn't enough, in this recipe I'm still balancing, but you can also make it using self-actualizing stone. I'm still tweaking the numbers for this guy, and it may get a catalyst, so just a heads up, this is not a final recipe. But the idea here is that I want to have a quote-unquote cheap way to make these with just the Dyson irradiator. And if those are still not keeping up, you would have an alternative that's a bit more expensive, but that can be passive independently of irradiator. That's the idea. Okay. And yeah, because because that was a bottleneck for Essence of the Highlight Warrior. Yeah, the bottleneck is getting resolved in a couple of ways. First, just easier singular condensates, and the second is easier highlight fluid. Although the highlight fluid upgrades are mostly relevant for post-game stuff, not necessarily if you're just doing regular progression. Then let's see another question. Are there any upgrades to mythic excavation reactors or hyperuranium actualizing fibrils? So the short answer is no, but it's because a lot of the things around them are getting upgraded. So for some of these recipes, I realized that, let's say for hyperuranium fibril, for example, if I just keep adding upgrades, it just dilutes the coolness of the recipe, sort of, right? Like when you make the first one of these, it feels like a lot, and the reason for why it becomes easier is not because the recipe itself becomes easier, but because your infrastructure gets better. So the way I'm kind of tackling these problems is by giving big buffs to the speed and parallelization for everything else in the chain, essentially. So for example, for fractal fragments of natural law, they have already the 2 tiers that you see in current update version, but additionally, speech of natural law gets a 4x upgrade instead of the 2x. The half glass is probably not a bottleneck here, but it's getting the Gaia altar recipe. The well-defined machine case is not getting upgraded itself because it's crafting, but the more defined machine case, which was a bottleneck, is getting upgraded. So essentially, my goal here, and for those that were in voice chat a while ago, I made this sort of point already. I want the upgrades to be more of death by 1,000 cuts as opposed to just giving flat multipliers. I think that the more I've worked on the pack, the more I feel like just giving something that is objectively better and it just requires gating to unlock doesn't feel as good as instead having stuff that is built from the ground up. So while this guy won't be getting upgrades, everything, like all of the ingredients in the various big crafts are getting upgrades. Okay, I saw a message real quickly, but I think it got deleted. So I guess you can retype it. Big fan of the new tooltip colors. So yeah, a few new tooltips have showed up. Of course, not everything will be getting the new tooltip treatment. Just a few things at a time. I don't have a particular timeline there. Okay. Minecraft in Chocolate says, sorry, accidentally deleted it. I'm curious about upgrade for the ingredients in the mythic excavation reactors. Okay. Let me see. So entropy constructs are getting more entropinium tiers. I think they went on up to 12. Now you can get 16. Then for Fluxed Electrum, you'll be able to do this block recipe now using the new Mythic processor, just using a crap ton of destabilized redstone, but you can just melt singularities for it. So you should be okay. Then we have the cell. Oh yeah, I forgot to add the transposer for this, so I can add that later, but these are part of the things that are getting chemical reactor mythic processors. Corvalium has, I believe, I forget what step becomes mythic processor. Okay. Yeah, for this thing, for the chunk of corallium, you can do alloy furnace mythic processor. Let me see what else. Reactive fluids is now mythic processor as well, with the gems also getting their own mythic processor. So you basically replace all the slow recursive with mythic processors. Empowerment core, the indirect buff is the better speed for awaken cores, since these used to craft slower than the actual crafting recipe of the empowerment core. I forget if it's already in current update or not, but honeycomb ingots now have oh yeah, no, this is already in the pack, so never mind. Yeah, the comment is, yeah, it sounds like all this is to reduce spam of things like sequential fabricators, etc. Yeah, exactly. So the goal here, because there is a challenge I've realized as I'm balancing things out for TARDIS, is that not every player wants to go for TARDIS, right? If you're just going for balance, the issue I saw as I was adding all these buffs was that just by them existing, they would break the balance of all the content that I've already made. So the way I've tried to make things, I don't know if I did necessarily a good job with it, but the attempt there was to make things that don't feel as good if you're just progressing normally, but that will absolutely feel worth it if you're doing those alternative endings that are much more complex. So, and again, you'll still see a few flat number increases for recipes. Like for example, for more defined machine casing, you use 8x the ingredients for 10x the output. That's a numerical increase, but it's not as evident as, let's say, 3x or 6x for a mythic excavation reactor. So the big number increases are still going to show up for main questline stuff, not for TARDIS stuff, essentially. Which made things a lot harder, because essentially now I need to look into every single crafting ingredient and come up with a faster way. To make it, of course, just adding a flat number would make things easier, but in my opinion, it would make things feel a lot less cool. And of course, this does not only extend to Hyperuranon, it also extends to balanced, and namely Hungering and Ascended. So for example, for Ascended, some stuff that is new, hypercharged redstone, for example, can now be mythic processored. I think the electron tubes already had the plated thermofabricator. Let me see. I think I added a few more things. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, wait. This is a very big one that I definitely should bring up, and it's singular spatial processor. So for starters, this guy is now an assembling machine as well, so you can make them in large batches. And this comes also with a bit of a revamp to processor clean room, where by unlocking pulsating fluids, so this is chapter 6 mostly, although it probably won't be worth it until later, you'll be able to do all of the storage components in here. So in batches of 32 for starts, of course, the fractal stone one is probably the one that you'd be caring the most about, and with one extra tier, so you'll be doing 10x parallelization, 100x parallelization, and 1000x parallelization, uh, because you end up eating through your processors. Oh yeah, another possibly big one is, let me see, for Hungering Flesh, the Mythic board chain has gotten a bit of a rework, in the sense that now you can do all steps in one of the new Mythic processors, as well as getting uh, a new initial recipe that would be using a few more meatballs, but most importantly, no Kubara jam for uh, for the initial crafting step. Has Nerved Skystone changed at all, mainly for ME controllers? So, okay. So Nerved Skystone has not changed, but ME controllers have. So again, similar idea here. I'm not giving you a flat number upgrade. I'm just making the steps faster with the Divinity Combiner. And as a matter of fact, Divinity Combiner is basically turning into a Mythic processor in the way I'm using it, to where I'm just, for a lot of things that are slow crafting steps, I'm adding parallelization tiers using the various tiers of Divine Resonance. Mhm. Oh yeah, one other thing that is definitely overdue is that since now you'll be eating a lot of chipsets, we are finally getting dense redstone chain, which is the pressurization or Mythic processor version from Crying Redstone, which comes from Crying Obsidian. I've tried to keep in mind the speed upgrades for later on, because I know you'll be making a lot of it. And it all starts with Crying Obsidian power, which gets its own recursive using other worldly tiers, and is initially obtained from new Master Spell shenanigans. So the idea here is you could be doing this all the way starting from chapter 2 if you wanted to, but you'd be required to do some otherworldly tiers automation in chapter 2, which you may or may not want to do. Okay. So I'm trying to think if there are other uh, big pressing issues. And yeah, I'll give it a couple of minutes, but I think, oh, I guess I can do. So these are all the new items coming into updates, items and blocks. A few of them are quality of life for early game. There have been a couple of reworks in the, I guess, info dump part of the pack, to where even if you don't read the quests, the quest rewards are going to be a bit more pointed towards just sharing important information. Because I feel like, especially, like you get a type of player that already feels like they are sort of a veteran. Those are players that don't always read the initial few quests, but they will check quest rewards. And so I try to customize the quest rewards a bit more to point you to important information like how do I change the speed from my expedition skill, or why am I getting radiation poisoning, stuff like that. I try to make things a bit smoother, to where even if you don't read the gray text, you can sort of get by. Okay, and now I guess I can give a quick showcase of the new super enchanting. There's a few new ones showing up, namely with regards to the gun revamp. I sort of tried to be intentional with the gating of the new upgrades, where they may not feel worth it in the chapter where you unlock them, but they are definitely going to be worth it with the just gun damage revamp that the pack is getting. I don't want to show them all because I feel like it's going to be cool to just see it yourself whenever the update comes out. But there's going to be quite a lot of big changes with regards to how guns are going to play out. I suspect that at most stages of the pack there would be at least a few of S tier Advent of Ascension gun builds, which I think should be pretty cool to hopefully add a bit of variety. Okay, are there any new power production methods for us non-energy users? Not quite. I think if you're chapter 10, you're still going to be doing Dyson Discharger spam. Although I feel like, unless I'm wrong, that should still keep up with your base. And let me see. There have been a few new energy generations in earlier chapters, but they probably won't be super relevant for post-game. What's called the Extreme Pressure Turbine has a few new recipes. Though the best one is 50 million RF per tick, so probably not super relevant if you're a post-gamer. I guess I'm asking to Minecraft in Chocolate, are you currently struggling with just using Dyson dischargers? Is that the reason why you're asking? And oh yeah, sorry about that, Cry, I forgot to reply. Did you change anything for Liquid Sunshine? Not directly, but indirectly. So if you know the, what's it called, the capacitor shard, which is for Masters of Spellcraft, if you catch my drift, you can use that to make, I've added more tiers of very powerful capacitors that you can make. By the time you unlock the find, you can get a 20x processing rate, and by getting Canon Ending, you can do a 30x speed upgrade. My goal there is essentially to just buff the speed of the machine using these capacitors instead of adding a multi-block, because again, if everything gets a multi-block, it's just the gray box problem all over again in a different form, and I don't want that. I feel like these little things make progression in the pack way more interesting than multi-blockifying everything. Now, if the machine you start with is already extremely boring, like a chemical reactor, I'm okay making a multi-block. If an automation is a bit more interesting, I try to change it up in ways that also feel interesting. Okay, let's see, what are they saying about Dyson dischargers? 6 Dyson dischargers. Okay, so 2 needed, 4. Okay, I mean, ideally, like, I don't think anyone has ever ran a Dyson Sphere at full speed. So I think uh, I think for the time being I'll keep it as is. Because right, in sci-fi, the Dyson Sphere is supposed to be the ultimate form of power generation. So if need be, I can add one extra tier. But at least for the time being, I'll probably keep things as is. Okay, and yeah, multi-blocks keep needing randomly billions of RF per tick. That is very true. I guess we'll see. I'm not opposed to adding more energy, but at least looking at the numbers, I don't think it's needed. But again, I can change my mind if need be. Will the Brainline catalyst be getting any upgrades? Mainly Papymar, alchemical catalyst, terrestrial catalyst, and neutral spirit. Yes. So Papymar, I don't think it will. I forget if this one is already in or not. I may make it a mythic processor, actually. I can do that fairly easily. Then alchemical catalyst. I with the multi-block. Wait, sorry, this guy. I thought with the multi-block it was fast enough. Is it still slow with the unifier? And while you answer, neutral spirit, yes, neutral spirit is one of the ones that does get the upgrade. So essentially, it would be I made sure that every single step in the chain gets multi-blockified. So the distillations are made in the steel pot, and the squeezing is made in the alcohol. The fermentation is done in the transposer, and the squeezing is done in the compactor. It's the sequential fabs to make the terrestrial artifacts that are the bottleneck. Wait, can't you? Because you don't need terrestrial artifacts to make the catalysts, right? Or you mean this recipe here? So if that's the case, I can add a either divinity combiner or assembler recipe for this. That's easy. Okay. Sorry, the catalyst. Okay, so I assume it's this recipe is here, right? Okay. That should be, yeah, that should be fairly easy. Okay. Now, is there anything else? I felt like I heard a rumor we were getting a 7th tier of recipe for each brain line batch. Is that the case? You mean the atomic replicator? Uh, if you mean no, like Warren 7, no. What is getting an upgrade is atomic replicator, uh, which has a 500x now, and 160 speed. I I don't think anyone has even gotten for Starvald. I don't think anyone has even gotten close to mode 6 for it. So I don't think it's going to be needed. And for the lower tiers, as far as I know, the actual fluids are still the bottom, the slower part of it. So I don't think it won't be particularly necessary. Mhm. Okay. Now, if there's no more questions, I think I'm sort of done with this live stream. Give it maybe a couple more minutes just in case, but I I guess like I could down so many rabbit holes to show recipe upgrades, but unless there are specific questions, I don't think it may be beneficial to other people watching. Okay, update looks stop. Thank you. I'm sure we'll all be frantically chasing down bottlenecks as soon as the update is out, I am sure. Is there any new naturally spawning structures? A few, but none in early game dimensions. Uh, so nothing you should be worried about up until chapter 8. Uh, is there a mythic processor recipe for fractalite halide catalyst? Yes, there is. This guy. Oh yeah, and these guys are getting. I forget if this recipe is already in the pack or not. Oh, actually, okay, okay. I did miss a big thing. Mythic Miner. Excuse me. Mythic Miner revamp. I don't know if I want to go through all of them, but they're basically all getting fairly big buffs. I can probably just go through, just show the JEI pages and mouse over things, uh, just to give you an idea. So for starters, recipe time is halved, and so is fluid cost for the ones that use fluids. And then new larger amounts of items and bigger chances. Cry is asking, will you show off the new testificates in the deep dark? You can go discover those for yourself. Because true, those are the big new Wargen revamp. That's right, I'd forgotten about those. There's gonna be a few new goodies that will be fairly useful in chapter 2, but that's all I'm going to say. And Minecraft in Chocolate asks, I'm interested in tokens, the power cores used for aero casing, etc. etc. Okay, so yeah, the tokens, uh, they all have 3 stacks at 99% chance, with the exception of Shirelands, which makes 6 stacks at 99% chance. Where the idea here is to make it so that you hopefully won't need any ultimate mob farms. Then power cores from the Iron Miner. Oh, okay, I forgot to buff these. Okay. I think at the moment it's only a 50% buff, but I can probably increase it. Yeah. No, wait, I think it's buffed in Iron Miner. Okay, okay, okay. Oh, wait, true. Lol. I was looking at the wrong one. There you go. Yeah. these are the new rates. Okay, I did remember doing that. Okay. Uh, I did so many changes, to be honest, that I sometimes I confuse myself. Yeah. Hmm. Oh yeah, and the runes have been getting also a big buff, specifically, uh, mostly for whenever I do staff revamp. This will not be coming for a while, but I'm kind of preparing for it a little bit. And another one that's probably going to be relevant are the pearls from Vetea. Uh, the rates have just been flatly increased in the miner, but most importantly, you'll be getting this new drop, the pearlescent cluster, which has its own processing chain, which, depending on how far progressed you are, gets better and better yield. So you'll have just higher rates to start, and then even higher from just unlocking a few things. Are the lamp chances going up? We had the wood artisan lamps. Lamps are getting higher, not as much as everything else, though. I think it's like a few percentage points from what I recall. Do dark dream bricks have an alternative way of making them? No. Are those a bottleneck for Nightmare Machine Case? Oh, I guess for this one you may not need to, just because there are upgraded recipes that use less of them. So I can check though. I can put that in the pins. May not be anymore, but I'm about neutral with 8 beta miners in current patch. Okay. I don't remember the original drop rate. I believe I did increase it here though. So I hope that in between recipe upgrades and drop rate, it should be okay, but I'll just do some napkin math and check if that's indeed the case. Is Awakened Draconium recipe in a Sensifier changed? Yes, it is. So there is, where is it here? Okay. So you're going to have the basic tiers that you get in the crafting table, and then there's going to be an additional tier, which uses this Awakened Infusion Stone, which comes from a crafting chain involving a new bee, which is the Awakened Bee, which is available chapter 5, and has its own like little upgrade chains using different Dragonfire Crucible fluids to get better yield on Blooming Infusion Stones to make more Awakened Draconium. Just checked, it looks like the drop rate of Dark Dream Bricks has not been increased. Okay, so if the rate hasn't been changed, this will just be a 2x buff because the recipe is twice as fast. So you'll still need 4 of them. I can probably just increase the chance by a bit to compensate for that. Okay, I like that idea a lot. I don't know which one you're referring to, but I'll take it as a general comment about the pack, so thank you. And yeah, you can probably hear it. My voice is definitely getting worse. I've been live now almost 2 hours, yeah. So I think if there's nothing more, I'll hop offline because it's been a while here. Does the double speed of the miners mean the excavation tokens can be used both for power and pure recursion? No, because the what's it called? The token totem also received the speed change. Well, okay, no, never mind. It still has the same recipe. Yeah, it has the same recipe as the miners, so it will still be 1-to-1. That if you want to double dip, you'll need to sacrifice or do double mythic miners. 1.0 whenever one of you noobs crafts a TARDIS. I'm waiting on you guys. All right. And with this, I think I'll call it. Thanks for everyone who hopped onto the live. I hope this gives a bit of an idea on what the future of the pack is going to look like. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a nice rest of your day and have a nice weekend. Bye, everyone.